What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Light and Lamp Podcast. I am here with Steve,
Hello.
as always, and it is our holiday episode. So I want to wish all of you guys a happy holidays if you're listening to this uh, around the time it comes out. And if you're not, and that statement is not relevant, then happy Tuesday or whenever you're watching this. Um, yeah, we're just gonna jump right into it. Like, this might be a shorter episode because I mean, if you've been paying any attention to the league at all, you kind of know what the deal is. So the league was postponed league wide. I think 2 days ago.
Yeah, it was,
Um,
well, they made the announcement it was supposed to start today, today being Wednesday, December 22nd, and it was going to go from today through the original NHL Christmas break, which ends on Monday. So, but essentially got extended to being the whole week because, like, there was only, two games that were supposed to happen, and then the second of those games got postponed.
Tampa played Vegas on Tuesday, and the Dallas Stars played the Wild on Monday. Those are the only two games that happened this week.
Yeah, and Washington and Philly were supposed to play yesterday, and they got postponed yesterday morning.
There's like what? Let's see how many games were postponed yesterday. One,
It was
two,
like
three,
38 or
four,
something.
5, 6, 7. There's 9 games on Tuesday alone were postponed. So yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, you know, the
I
league
think I
was
saw.
postponed league wide, and then obviously, the announcement came out that the NHL players are not going to the Olympics. Um, so just everything kind of just been in pause. So like, what were you gonna say?
I think I saw that like there were something like the number was something crazy, like say like 100 NHL games lost to COVID, and I think it was something crazy like 65 of them had come in the last 7 days. Like the
I,
majority of all of the postponements had happened in the last week.
at one point, it was like 28% of the league's teams were postponed indefinitely, because the season started out. The only team that got postponed was Ottawa, and then the Islanders got postponed after some questionable decision making by the NHL. Um, and then one other team got postponed, and then like after
Was it
that, like the whole like an avalanche, no pun intended, like slew of players were on COVID and teams were getting postponed. It was just like a nightmare after that.
And some teams they couldn't get the benefit of a postponement were playing games with like 17 players, and it was like,
It was a mess. It was a total mess. So yeah, league's postponed. Players aren't going to onto the Olympics. I mean, we talked about that kind of in depth last time. I mean, do you have any feelings now that it's officially official that the NHL is not going to the Olympics?
I mean, I, I would have been surprised. I mean, I would have been surprised if they had decided to go with everything that's happened, especially with the league-wide shutdown now. I mean, I don't feel any different about it than I felt last week when we talked about it. Um, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something about one of these teams in protocol, and I just totally forgot.
I'll talk for a little bit and maybe see if something like jumbles up in your mind. I mean, yeah, like honestly, I know a lot of people were saying, oh, it should be up to the players if they want to go or not. But the bottom line, look, end of the day is you're under contract to a National Hockey League team. The NHL is a business, and they're in the business of making money. And specifically, the team that you play for is in the business of making money. And if your name is like Alex Ovechkin or Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, having you stuck in China for 5 weeks is not good for A, the on ice product, because your team's going to suffer as a result of it, and B, because people pay money to watch the players that they want to watch. Like, not for nothing, I would be interested to see if there's a stat of this. But like when a team's top player goes out, you have to think that some people who were maybe planning on going to a game, might say, "Oh, well, we'll wait until he comes back." Like if Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin are playing for the Penguins, some fans might be like, "Well, am I going to pay $150 for a ticket to not watch Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin? Maybe I'll wait until they're both back from injury or something like that." So like it's a business, right? And you're under contract to an NHL team, so I don't
You know where
think
you might be able to find that stat though? I
Where
wonder if the Buffalo Sabres put out like their attendance numbers and like you can see like when Jack Eichel was on the ice last year compared to when he wasn't and see the number of fans it put in the building, you know what I mean?
yeah, I mean that's probably something that is well,
I feel like
obviously
it's more of like
attendance
a
is
finite
definitely
one.
tracked, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like ultimately, yes, you are an individual, but you are under contract to an NHL team, so it's really not within that NHL team's impetus to let you go overseas. And I don't think it's a bad thing that the players were. I mean, first of all, because of the way that contracts and legal obligations work, the NHL has to agree with the NHLPA, with the International Olympic Committee, to have that all of that happen anyway, right? So it's not as if the NHL can just say, "Oh yeah, all the NHL players can go," because then the NHLPA can be like, well, we don't agree with that," and then the International Olympic Committee can be like, "Well, we don't want them here," et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? There's contracts that have to be negotiated. Um, I just don't think ultimately leaving it up to the players was ever going to happen, and I don't think it should have happened. Not that I think players are dumb. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination, but really it's for their own benefit and safety at this point that they're not going. Um, it's just not good right now. So going overseas for 5 weeks, or going overseas for 3 weeks and then potentially staying there up to 5 weeks after is
Kind of an
not
owie.
not an ideal situation. So
I remember what I was gonna say before.
okay,
I was gonna talk about how the NHL originally the postponement was just for cross-border games, as if that was like the big problem. Because what only I think it only been one Canadian team that had gone into protocol like recently.
there's
It was
Toronto,
mostly
right?
like
Didn't
yeah,
Toronto start?
I think it was Toronto and then Calgary, but I think it's like but my point essentially being that it was mostly American teams. You know what I mean? So like the step to be like, oh well, the Canadian teams can't come here and we're not going to go there. It just felt like, why is this? Why was that their first step instead of just an immediate league-wise postponement? You know?
Well, actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because that actually leads into my first lump of coal that I'm going to give out. Um, so yeah, we're doing the same thing we did last year. We're going to give some coal and some presents to different teams, players, executives, etc., whoever the hell we want to, essentially. So I guess I'll start because you kind of like, alley-ooped it to me. Um,
Mm.
yeah, my first lump of coal goes to the NHL for the inconsistency in the way that they handled the COVID situations. Now, I'm not mad at the NHL for the policies that they originally had put in place, right? And I understand that COVID is incredibly fluid. It's a very fluid situation. It changes every hour on the hour, basically every day. You know, one day is never the same as the next, especially when you're running the National Hockey League.
Right.
But what I don't like about the way that they implemented their COVID protocols was how inconsistent it was this year. The Ottawa Senators really only got shut down when at the start of the year because they literally ran out of players. They didn't have anybody left in the farm system to call up. And then the Islanders don't get shut down when they are basically nearly there. I mean, we had like 2 or 3 players left, and we were playing with one rostered NHL defenseman and up to 8 to 9 players on the COVID reserve list. We don't get postponed for 4 games at that point. And then what really kind of bothered me was when the Avalanche started getting players in COVID protocol. Before the whole thing got shut down. And this was, I forget who tweeted this, but it was one of the NHL insiders tweeted out that the NHL actually asked the Colorado Avalanche if they wanted to play or not. Now, what really kind of pisses me off about that is obviously NHL players are always going to say yes. We're going to go out and play. We're going to put on a show for the fans. We're going to go out and do our jobs, right?
Right.
They're always going to say that. But if you asked Barry Trotz and Lou Lamoriello, hey, do you want to play these next 3 games with one NHL defenseman? Or do you want us to just postpone your games? I have a strong feeling that even a guy as old school as Lamoriello would have been like, listen, we're gonna take 3 losses in a row here if we don't do this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you don't think? I think that they would have probably said, okay, we have to play the home opener. It's the home opener. It's going to be a sellout crowd, etc. Right? So like, we'll play that one out. But like, there's nothing wrong with playing out the home opener and then the next day postponing those next 3 games. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a bad look or anything because you got the home opener out of the way, etc. You could always claim, oh, it was too close. You know, all those players went on protocol the day of, whatever. Some nonsense story, but I just don't like how like you ask the Avalanche if they want to play and you give them a choice, but you don't give the Islanders a choice who then lose 4 games, and then not only that, but then you force the Carolina Hurricanes to play with instead of the usual 18 skaters, you force them to play with 17 skaters, and then you force the Boston Bruins the next night to play against the Islanders with 17 skaters. Like what like are we just every time a new COVID case happens, are we just flipping a coin? Is this like a choose your own adventure game where like, hey, the Islanders have 8 players on postponement. Oh, tails, they have to play it out. Oh, the Avs have 4 players on postponement. Heads, they get a choice. Like, where's the consistency in all this?
See, what I don't like about that is like them reaching out to the Avalanche and asking them to play is almost showing favoritism in a way because the Islanders had said that the NHL was being. I remember Lou Lamoriello saying that the NHL was being kind of evasive, like they weren't giving him answers and they weren't really telling him what the decision making was going on their end. So the fact that like they did all of that to the Islanders like in the shadows and then we're just like to the Avalanche like, hey, do you wanna play? It's kind of like, wait, but why didn't you just ask? Why don't you ask every team that has a bunch of guys go on whether they want to play or not? You know?
And then you force the Hurricanes and Bruins to play down a player because they just quite literally don't have enough players. Not that either they don't have enough players or in the Hurricanes' place, they couldn't get a player quick enough to the game because it was like they were flying out that day or whatever. You know, it's just like I I get it. It's COVID is very fluid and it's hard to manage, but like as an operating league of professional sports, there needs to be some kind of consistency. And it's not happening. You know, like I don't know. That's
I mean,
just it just really kind of bugs me.
consistency's never been the NHL's forte, but like this time it really feels like the one time they needed to like not even necessarily be consistent, but at least be transparent about it. Because I mean, I don't know how consistent you can really be with the situation as fluid as it is, but at least be transparent about it, like about what's going on, like what the decision making at the top looks like, instead of like this weird, like shadowy, like oh, nobody really knows how many players need to get on a list before a team gets postponed. Like I remember the number floating around at like 10, but then we saw teams with less than 10 players get postponed. So I don't think like I think that's a big problem on the NHL's part is that nobody really knows
What's going
where
on?
yeah, like where the boundaries are, like what's gonna like warrant postponement and what isn't.
I mean, not to mention the fact that like let's be honest here. If there was a list of general managers who would be privy to that information, you have to think that Lou Lamoriello would be like either number 1 or 2, you know, just because of his tenure in the NHL. And even
Right.
he was like completely kept in the dark when it came to this kind of thing. So even he, like, you know, one of the longest tenured GMs in the NHL was like, I don't know what the hell is going on behind closed doors. And it was kind of annoying. So yeah, the NHL is getting a lump of coal for being incredibly inconsistent, slash not transparent in their dealings this season with regards to COVID protocols. So, who's getting your first lump of coal? Who's on a naughty list this year?
I'm gonna go. This is kind of an easy layup, but I mean the Chicago Blackhawks for covering up what is probably one of the most heinous scandals in recent NHL memory. I
Yeah.
mean,
Okay.
I don't know how you can. And I'm not gonna point fingers at individuals because at this like even at this point it's a lot of like he said she said like not saying that like I don't believe the allegations obviously, but I'm saying like I don't nobody really knows who was in the rooms for those meetings and what was actually said because the NHL has an investigation and then someone else will say that I was there, but this, that, blah, blah, blah. So whatever. No names, just the Blackhawks organization as a whole. Because honestly, as storied as your franchise is, this is probably like a gigantic stain on it. I mean, you now can't talk about probably the greatest team of the 2010s, the team that won, what, 3 Stanley Cups in 5 years. You can't mention them in any conversation now without having to be like, oh, well, yeah, that's also the team that was, kind of like hired a guy and kept a guy on staff, even though he tried to like sexually assault one of his own players. And then we let him off easy, and then he went to jail for molesting some high school boys. Like,
Yeah, I mean, these guys were actually going to be my second one, so we'll combine your first and my second. I just think this has been one of the most disastrous years in an NHL team's history. Period. Point blank. Full stop. I mean, from in every single regard of the word disaster, right? Obviously, the big thing and the more important aspect of it being what happened off the ice. That's the number one most important thing that got brought to light. They were essentially, you could use the phrase like justice was served, right? Like Kyle Beach got a settlement, and obviously justice can never truly be served in a situation like this because the damage that man has caused uncountless number of players is going to stay with them forever. But as much as justice could be served in that situation, it was, right? Like Cheveldayoff is no longer working in the NHL. Joe Quenneville is no longer working in the NHL. Um, the general manager, whose
Stan
name
Bowman.
Stan Bowman, is no longer working in the NHL. Just people that needed to be held accountable were held accountable. And then you get the comments that your current captain makes in regards to the whole thing, which is its own mini crisis in its own way, because Jonathan Toews completely puts his foot in his mouth. And if Jonathan Toews was putting up a 3-pointer, he essentially turned around and just hucked it into the crowd. That's how badly he missed the point of all of this. Like, he came out with this statement insinuating that, like, he's standing by all these guys that he was on a team with, but it's like that's not really what we care about. We care about what happened to Kyle Beach. Like, so he completely misses the entire point of everything that happened.
It's not even that like he missed the point. It's like he comes across as ignorant, like almost unwilling to like even try to like engage with the reality he lives in. You know? He's like, well, that doesn't, what happened with in the locker room was this. And it's like, yeah, but nobody's talking about that. Nobody's implicating you or the leadership group or the players. They're implicating the coaching staff and the people in power who had the power to do something about this and didn't do anything.
Yeah, and he just makes this like completely asinine statement that has nothing to do with what's going on. And then you get to the third layer of everything that's happened to Blackhawks this year, which is that their play on the ice has been absolutely completely terrible. Like, at points, borderline unwatchable if it wasn't for Patrick Kane, quite frankly. So in terms of just from top to bottom, from organization to from ownership to organization to on ice performance, just a complete unmitigated disaster. Like, honestly, I can't think of another team, at least in my lifetime, that has had this bad of a year from top to bottom. I mean, and this is coming from somebody who, I mean, lived through some pretty absolutely terrible Islanders years in those early 2010s, and really late 2000s as well, this is just
True.
a complete implosion from like every like there's no, I can't think of one. Okay, the only one good thing you can say about the Chicago Blackhawks this year is that Patrick Kane continues to prove why he's, in my opinion, the best American-born player of all time. He's the only bright spot on this team right now, quite honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally the only one doing anything.
Oh, and we also forgot when when Jeremy Colleton just gave the clipboard to his players because he didn't know how to coach. Yeah, we forgot about
And
that
then he got
part.
fired. Yeah. I mean,
uh,
talk about an absolute nuclear disaster of a season. You have like they literally had their entire front office gutted and
just
had their captain disgraced essentially in the eyes of the public. Like everything about the Blackhawks they had to be proud of in that decade. You know what I mean? Like if not if Patrick, if Jonathan Tays hadn't said anything and he had just been like, yeah, this is unfortunate, like I stand by my players, like, Kyle's a friend of mine. Like even just made some fucking shit up, bro, and just made it sound good, like and just made it sound like you have some form of solidarity with the players while also kind of still trying to be like, well, and if he's been like, hey, I stand with Kyle, like this is fucked up, everything's all screwed up, but I don't think Stan and um Joel are necessarily bad guys, right? I would have been like, okay. I mean, it's still not great, but like at least you're understanding what's happening here. But like when the face of your franchise comes out and is just like, this is dumb. Like I don't get what's going on. Like this is
yeah,
all ridiculous, and it's just like he might as well just like smeared like just crap all over like the Blackhawks logo. Honestly, like it's just such a disgrace. Like it's really just rubbing dirt in the wound, and I don't. It's a bad year to be a Blackhawks fan. Like you
yeah,
said, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Like,
yeah. And to kind of compound or to kind of go off of this, my first present that I want to give out this year actually is unfortunately a result of all this happening, but it is the right response to all this happening in stark contrast to Jonathan Tays' goofy ass standing there and grandstanding about what an awesome person like all these terrible people are. In stark contrast to that, my first present goes to Patrice Bergeron of the Boston Bruins, who sat his entire team down. Every single player, there was no exemptions to this. The oldest player to the youngest player on the team sat them down in the locker room. They watched the Kyle Beach testimony, and they read the article about what happened and the ruling and stuff. And he said in absolutely no uncertain terms that this is never going to fly ever while he's wearing a spoked B. And I think that that's exactly the right kind of response to have. Now, I think it's really important because if you're an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old who's playing on the Bruins, or even if you're an 18-year-old or 19-year-old who's playing for the Providence Bruins, and you see that your future captain is sitting down not just the young players, but 33-year-old guys like Brad Marchand who've been in the league forever, and saying that this is a safe space. If you need to come talk to anybody, come talk to me. I'm going to have your back. I'm not going to put this under the rug. This is not happening. That gives you the confidence that if, God forbid, something does happen, you know for a fact that you can now go to Patrice Bergeron. Because quite honestly, nobody in that Chicago Blackhawks locker room is going to Jonathan Toews about something like this. You can't.
no.
You just won't. And so I want to really, really commend Patrice Bergeron for doing that, because quite honestly, he really didn't have to. He could have just been like, it's a Blackhawks problem. I don't got to worry about it. I'm not playing for the Blackhawks. But no, he took a proactive step and set an example for not only his reign as captain, but whoever in that locker room takes over for after him. Because 99% chance that the next captain of the Boston Bruins is going to be somebody that was in that locker room with him. Probably Charlie McAvoy. Let's just be honest.
Probably.
And I just think that was just a way to take a tragedy and turn it into something positive.
Mm.
I just think that was the right thing to do, because like I said, he really didn't have to do that. So, because goddamn, we know Jonathan Toews didn't.
Well, yeah, Jonathan Taves also didn't have to go out there and defend them, but Lord knows he did.
So who's getting a gift from the Spiebinator?
Let's see. I guess it was just kind of like a blanket statement, but I'm gonna say, this year's rookie class has been a pretty big gift to all the teams that are benefiting, mostly the Detroit Red Wings and the Anaheim Ducks. But if you want to narrow it down, we could talk specifically about the Detroit Red Wings and that Lucas Raymond and Mo Seider have literally been like the biggest gift this team has gotten in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's funny that you say that because that was actually going to be my second gift as well. Was the rookies this year and just putting on a show. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the rookie class last year. Not taking anything away from Kirill Kaprizov or Niels Hoglander or Jason
And Cale
Robertson.
McCaw counted as a rookie, or no, he was a rookie year before. Sorry.
But yeah, so like not taking anything away from the rookie class last year. But I just kind of feel like this year's rookie class is, I don't know, they've got like a, I almost want to say like a pizzazz or like a spark or like a spunk about them
I
that
feel
like
like
they're just doing these crazy things like Lucas Raymond, Trevor Zegras, Mo Seider, uh, even like Dawson Mercer for the uh, New Jersey Devils has been pretty good. Like we're seeing like these really really good rookies and they're doing things that I'm like, bro, are we sure this like kid's 19? Like,
I just think like this year, unlike any other, like we've had rookies who weren't expected to step in and make big impacts, and they've just been like way better than anybody could have expected. I mean, the last couple of rookies that have come in and made impacts, like that Lucas Raymond or Trevor Zegras have been guys like Connor McDavid. Guys you knew who were going to come off the bench and were instantly going to be like superstars. If like Lucas Raymond obviously had always had the talent, he's a top 5 pick, and Trevor Zegras as well. But it just felt more like they were projects, they were like pieces of their game they really had to work on. But they were like, nah, whatever, and they just showed up and started doing what like everything and anything they wanted, and are just absolutely dominating because of it. I mean, Trevor
Alex,
Zegras did like a Michigan pass to fucking what was his name in front of the net, and he just batted it in. I was like, oh well, this is just getting ridiculous now.
and we also have a pretty solid crop of rookie goalies as well. Somehow Alex Nedeljkovic still counts as a rookie, which is weird, but okay. I mean, Jeremy Swayman for the Boston Bruins, Spencer Knight for the Florida Panthers, uh, Stuart Skinner has been playing well for the Oilers. Yuko Pekka for the Buffalo Sabres has been absolutely unbelievable in his 5 games so far. Like we're just seeing these guys in this rookie class come in and just kind of just do things that I don't think we've seen many other rookie classes do. And again, it's not to talk bad about any other previous rookie classes, but like
This year's class just seems to be built different, for
I'm built
lack of a better term.
different.
But I mean, it's just kind of the truth, right? Like, it's funny because the guys we thought were going to be the big names coming out of those draft classes haven't broken out yet. Guys like Jack Hughes or Capo Caco, and yet here's Trevor Zegras and Lucas Raymond, and they were picked later than them and are absolutely dominating right now. So
Yeah, it's been exciting. It's definitely been, and if nothing else, it's a reason to tune into teams that you might not tune into otherwise. No offense to the Red Wings or Anaheim Ducks, but it's a reason to watch these teams. And even honestly, I mean, I'm also a big friggin' goalie nerd, but like I'll watch Buffalo Sabres games if I know that UPL is playing, just because I want to watch this kid. Um, and little little side note, some good American-born players making some good moves, Zegras and Spencer Knight, and you know,
Jamie Dry, no, Jamie Drysdale's Canadian, right?
yeah. So it's pretty cool. So, my second lump of coal we already went over because we tied it in with something that you said. So my third and final lump of coal. I mean, this kind of obvious, kind of a layup, but I mean, come on. There's absolutely no way that PK Subban's not on the naughty list this year, right? Like,
I mean, yeah, this was gonna be one of mine too, but I'll come up with another one, bro. But yeah, like my man's out here kicking feet like he's playing soccer. Like, like what is he doing?
if there
Like,
was a Santa Claus, like, I'm sorry if then little kids are listening, but if there was a Santa Claus, he's watching PK Subban, like, bro, you're already on the naughty list, bro. Like, I can't, like, am I supposed to put you on like the super naughty list? Like, does this carry over into next year? How does this work now?
It's just like PK Subban's time in New Jersey feels like the ultimate tailspin in both like his on ice and off ice performance. Like he used to be like a superstar with all this swag. He had like, the like the Olympian girlfriend or fiance, and then like he gets traded to New Jersey, they break up, he starts slew footing guys. Like, it's real rough to be PK Subban right now, I think. Like
Yeah, and it's really disappointing for me specifically because like I went to bat for him so hard for his first 2 years in New Jersey because I was like, look, the Devils aren't a great team. He's not playing with a great defensive partner. There's just a lot of things that are going wrong in New Jersey. But like, I can't defend this guy anymore when his response to "Oh God, I'm getting beat out of the corner" is just to kick people in the skates as hard as he possibly can. So there's
with
just
almost zero regard for like their safety either. Like
it's just been terrible. I mean, first of all, he's not good anymore, right? He doesn't look good on the ice, so his on ice play sucks. He's out here to hurt people, and then he goes and says like dumb things to the media about like when they ask him about like his slew foots and stuff like that. He just says like stupid crap that like everyone knows he's full of shit. He just what happened? Like, did he go to New Jersey and like watch one like too many Sopranos movies and like he's like
it was like,
embedding
oh, I
himself
see
in
how this works now.
he's like embedding himself like he's really becoming like this stereotypical like Jersey scumbag. You know what I'm saying? Like the guy you see walking down the street in Manhattan, you're like, he's first of all he's not from here, and second of all this guy's a friggin' dick. He
Got like
really.
this greased up haircut, like.
I'm half expecting Subban like to walk out of the locker room in the next game with like, well, I mean, what? I guess New Jersey thinks they have good pizza, so maybe like a slice of pizza and like a Sopranos hat. Like I'm just
He wears
waiting
like a
for it,
bowling shirt like Tony Soprano.
man. And it sucks because, like I said, I wanted him to be good. I loved PK Subban on Montreal. He's one of my favorite players, and like
Oh,
I
believe me, you're not the only one that wanted him to be good. I'm sure what's his name? GM of the New Jersey Devils is sitting there like, oh gosh, I
I
still have to
just
pay him like $9 million.
yeah. So PK Subban's getting a big fat lump of coal because he's just being an idiot this year.
Being
He's
an
just
asshole, bro.
just dumber than dirt. So, I think we'll do your third lump of coal if you have one,
Hmm.
and then
Let's
I
see, I'm sure I can
think,
come up with one.
um, I guess well, I'll do my third present while you're thinking. You know, there's been a lot of garbage that's been going on this year, just in terms of the COVID situations of it all, and just like players having to deal with a lot of stuff. But the one thing that I've noticed that players have been kind of consistently able to do is somewhat make the best of a bad situation. So I want to give just a shout out to just the NHL players in general for making the most of what they can out of a pretty shitty situation in the NHL right now. But specifically, I also want to point out the Vancouver Canucks. And the Vancouver Canucks this year have done a couple of different things. One, I know that they've been involved a lot with local indigenous groups. That they had that one warm-up jersey that they wore that was designed in part with a local indigenous group. They've been really reaching out and trying to make sure that kind of just open up that cultural kind of talk, in light of what happened in Canada earlier this year with the mass graves being found under those boarding schools. The Canucks kind of really took it to heart and have really been doing a lot of good. As far as I know, obviously I don't know the behind the scenes, but and say what you want about it being just a publicity stunt. Maybe it is from the Canucks point of view, but for the little kid who's never heard of, X, Y, or Z local indigenous group, and then they're bought that information is brought to them by the Vancouver Canucks, that's a positive impact. And then they also recently, when the stop was announced, the team postponement was announced, they took all of the food that they had ordered from the arena, and instead of just sticking it back in the freezers that they got it from, they went out and donated it all to local food banks. And it was like some crazy amount of food because, I mean, it was basically 3 home games worth of food, right? So just kind of making the best out of a pretty bad situation in Vancouver. So a special
So,
like maybe like a stocking stuffer to like just NHL players in general for
mhm.
kind of just putting up with all of this stuff to put on a show for us fans. And then, specifically wanted to point out the Vancouver Canucks, who for some pretty
Who seem,
bad situations this year have kind of made the most of it.
yeah, they've seemed to have gone above and beyond. My third gift is going to go to the people of Calgary with the return of the teddy bear toss. This is kind of like almost a ritual in the NHL around Christmas time, or not the NHL, but in the hockey world anyway, around Christmas time. And it's usually like CHL teams. And for those of you who don't know, the teddy bear toss is everybody who comes to the game brings the teddy bear. And the first goal that's scored by the home team, usually in this case, the Calgary Hitmen, when they score the goal, you throw the teddy bear on the ice, and then they collect them all and they donate them to children's hospitals, to homeless shelters, various charities for kids that don't have the money or the means to get presents this holiday season. And I mean, they're usually big, right? Like there's usually a lot of teddy bears, but it almost felt like in this year's case, like the people had been waiting for 2 years for this now, and there were just like, dude, there were so many teddy bears. I think it took them like 15 minutes to clear the ice. Like it was nuts. And I mean, the players love that shit, right? Like they're running around and like diving into piles of teddy bears and stuff, but it's just like it was nice to see that like in a year that's been so shitty for pretty much everybody, right? Like especially us here in North America specifically, being Canada and the United States. Uh to see that like people still do have, the care to at least put in the effort and give back what they can when they can. This wasn't like an NHL team which has, for lack of a better term, is a bunch of millionaires, you know, a bunch of guys paid well better than most people are to do their jobs. And this was kind of nice to see because it was just regular people. Like it was just the fans in the stands that just came. Like some people brought like 5 or 6 teddy bears. Like it was nuts. And like some of these things were huge. Like I don't even know how they got them into the arena and threw them onto the ice. And it was cool to see too because like the people in the upper deck were throwing them into the lower deck, and the people in the lower deck were then throwing them over the boards onto the ice. So like this whole thing took like 20 minutes. Like it was insane.
Yeah, the teddy bear tosses are really, really cool. Usually, like you said, it is an AHL thing, ECHL thing, but I think it's awesome because first of all, the visual is just really cool. Like somebody scores a goal and then like these like hundreds and hundreds of teddy bears just come like raining over the boards. It's kind of wild.
It
Um,
really is.
but yeah, like you said, it's not like and this isn't to like talk down on charity done by millionaires, but it's like your average, like it's your neighbor. It's the guy that's an accountant who makes like 40 grand a year, or the mother who's a teacher who makes like 30 grand a year, who went out and bought like 4 or 5 stuffed animals, and those stuffed animals are gonna go towards a kid who otherwise would not have gotten it that year. And quite honestly, as dumb as it sounds, like that can really make the world a difference to a small child or to somebody fighting a terrible disease in a hospital or something like that. Just like these small gestures of like knowing somebody not only took the time to go out and buy the stuffed animal, then buy a ticket to a hockey game and then throw it over the boards. Which for some of those heavier teddy bears, like I saw this one teddy bear that was like the size of like 2 people. They had
That's
to
what I'm saying,
like
bro. They
lift
had to
it
like,
over the boards like in his.
how did they get it into the arena? Like they walk up to security with that thing. They're like, sir, you're gonna need a ticket for that teddy bear." It's like, it's fine. I got one right here.
Yeah, like he's sitting in the chair next to him, like beer in one hand, like a hot dog in the other hand. Like,
Bro, honestly, so this is kind of ancillary, but like if I was going to the teddy bear toss and I had a giant teddy bear like that, I would totally buy him a ticket and put a hat on it and
a
like put
jersey,
it in the
just
stand.
like.
Yeah, bro, and like take pictures like at the game with my homie, like, and then obviously I'd throw him over the boards, but it'd be like,
It's like, oh no, my homie going over, and like it's you hucking him over the boards.
you're just like tipping him over the board. But yeah, no, it was cool to see. Like it was, you know, because obviously last year there was no hockey really around Christmas time, but there was also no like fans in any of the stands at the time, especially for the CHL and the AHL and a lot of those like lower level leagues. So it was nice to see that like people were still out in force, for the teddy bear toss. Like they were like all in, all for it.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, it's just one of those things where as much as we might complain about a lot of things that happens in the hockey world, I think that we do have an incredibly giving sport in terms of just the people that make up not just the players but the fans. There's a lot of charity work that the NHL does between Hockey Fights Cancer, the Bell Let's Talk days, teddy bear tosses in the lower leagues. I guess the Vancouver Canucks donating all this food,
Yeah, I
military
mean
appreciation nights.
The Rangers have the Garden of Dreams Foundation. Like a lot of these teams do a lot of really good community outreach now, which is nice to see. Compared to what it used to be, right? Like 30 years ago, there was some community outreach, but it wasn't what it is, which, I mean, the world wasn't what it is. So, but it's nice to see that these teams are really like investing in their community and like investing in the sense of like we belong here, like we're part of this community, you know what I mean? And we're not like above you kind of
Yeah,
thing.
for sure. So I guess we'll kind of, unless do you have any other presents or coal that you want to give out before we kind
Um,
of wrap it up? I mean, I
I
have one that like maybe we could talk about. I don't even know if a lump of coal is worthy of what's happening in Arizona, but like whatever is happening in Arizona is bad, and like I
see, I
guess like
was It's funny. I was actually going to give Arizona like a stocking stuffer, like an honorable mention, and for doing well, not like well in the sense that like their on ice product is good, but doing well in the sense that like understanding like what their vision is and like what their direction is, and like just sticking to it. You know what I mean? Like eating bad contracts, being bad on the ice, intentionally doing things to ensure that you have the best chance at getting like the best players in these upcoming drafts. I mean, they have what, 2 first round picks this year, and they have like 5 second round picks or something like.
they have an insane amount of draft picks.
So like, yeah, I mean, you could say for a lump of coal for like their on ice product being ass, but like that's by design, like we keep saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I think certainly for what you're saying to for intentionally buying into the process, they definitely deserve a kudos. I wasn't giving them the lump of coal for that. I definitely think that they deserve accommodation for that. Um, I was talking about the reason I was giving them a lump of coal is because of the whole like delinquent on taxes thing
oh well,
and getting
yeah.
locked out of their arena by the city of Glendale.
And then Glendale invoking the nuclear option to evict them, essentially. Yeah. I mean, and then you compound that with them having to surrender draft picks in the previous draft and having their general manager who was doing intentional tampering with prospects then just abruptly leave the organization. Like,
Look, there's a lot of things that has been going on in Arizona off ice that they quite honestly can't control. It's not really up to the Arizona Coyotes whether or not the city of Glendale wants them there. Unfortunately, that's just going to come down to the government at the time. But specifically for being delinquent on taxes, like come on, like
like, bro, come on.
you have you have a roster space of 74 million people or 74 million in cap.
Dollars. Yeah, bro. You literally like didn't their owner just buy this team? Like isn't this like wasn't that a whole thing? Like there was a new owner, they finally had like an infusion of cash. They weren't gonna be like one of the poorest franchises in the NHL anymore, and then it's like, yeah, we forgot to pay our taxes, guys. It's
Yeah,
like how did you forget to pay your taxes, bro? What?
and
Like
just like getting locked out of your own arena. Like what if they hadn't resolved that and there was a game that night?
imagine walking up to the arena as like the head coach for like the morning skate and like all your players just standing at the door like, yeah, I don't we're
And it's
locked
just like
out.
an eviction notice.
Bro, there wouldn't even be a padlock on the door. It'd
Like,
just be like, well,
uh, there's a frozen pond. Oh wait, it's Arizona. There is no
never mind,
frozen
we live in a
pond.
desert. It's
There's like
85 degrees in
they get all their
December.
fucking gear on, just step into a lake and
they just like wade into it like waist deep. It's like, all right, let's do it.
So I guess yeah, the Coyotes will get a little stocking stuffer. We'll give them like a little knickknack, and then like this massive lump of coal, specifically at the feet of the owner. I'll say it's really nothing to do with the players. They don't pay the taxes.
It's not like Clayton Keller was like, nah, I'm gonna swindle them out of all their tax money. Like
Whoever their accountant is and whoever the owner is are both getting a lump of coal. Because like, how did you not
how do you
notice
not pay your
this?
taxes, bro? Like,
The
I
accountant's
mean, I
sitting
know you're
there
like a
like,
millionaire, and that's kind of what you don't
well, yeah.
do. But like, still, but like, come on, you want a franchise now? The franchise has to at least pay taxes.
The accountant's sitting there like, wow, we have like an extra $3 million that we didn't have last year. Where did this come from? In the city of Glendale's like knocking on the window, like, I'm gonna pay my fucking taxes. Like,
It's like that meme of Moon Knight. It's like instead of it being like him looking for Dracula, it's just like, I know you're here, Arizona Coyotes. Where's my money, you bitch? Like that's just it, bro. It's like where? How do you forget to pay your taxes? I really like.
I pay my taxes.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, I'm one of the most forgetful people I know, and I've never not paid my taxes. Like, don't like. I guess the real threat is like, if you or I don't pay our taxes, we'll go to prison. But like, that's a different story for a different day, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They just get locked out of their arena.
So I guess we'll kind of we'll end on a little bit of a bah humbug note for the Arizona Coyotes. I guess we'll end it like this. What is your Christmas wish for the rest of the season? If you could pick one thing to happen for the rest of the season, what would you pick? Because honestly, at this point, realistically speaking, my wish is just that the season finishes.
Yeah, bro. I'm just hoping for a smooth second half here. Like that's all I'm hoping for. I'm hoping we don't have like 26% of the league in like fucking protocol like at any given point the rest of the season. Like,
Yeah, I'm not even gonna be greedy and be like, I'm gonna wish for the Islanders to come back and win the Stanley Cup, just because I just want the season to happen at
I want to
all.
see anybody lift a Stanley Cup. Like, please. Like, I don't want, and I really just don't want. I'll put it this way: I want the NHL season to continue smoothly and in as normal a fashion as possible. Whether that includes limiting crowd capacity, but I hope it doesn't have to go to the point where it's outright eliminating crowd capacity again, and we're going to like that towards the bubble environment because that was weird, man. Like the players didn't like it. I don't think any of the fans really liked it. So like, I'm just hoping we don't start heading that direction again because like,
Yeah, I mean,
ugh.
Canada's already at 50% capacity. I have to think, quite honestly, that the United States, certain teams anyway, we know certain teams in certain states, Florida and Texas, are just going to let people die by the hundreds and not really care. So they'll probably be operating quite fine. But certain other teams in less ignorant areas, we'll say, might be heading in that direction. But we shall see. Next week we'll probably do a little bit of another holiday kind of episode, maybe like some New Year's resolutions for some teams. I mean, obviously PK Subban's New Year's resolution should be to stop almost putting people in the hospital every time he steps on the ice. So
Stop trying to stomp on people's feet. Yeah.
so
He's like, yo, bro, I'm just trying to play footsies.
So, yeah, maybe some New Year's resolutions next episode before we kick off 2022. My God, what a
Oh man.
concept. So, yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys again next time.